Welcome to the Allured Life podcast. My name is Katie Christ, and in 2016, I wrote down in a journal that I was going to become unapologetically my best self. And my purpose is to help women do the same, whether that's overcoming body image issues, creating next level inner confidence, or up-leveling our emotional intelligence and sense of worth. I believe that by investing in and developing who we are, we can exponentially transform the world we live in. My mission is to create power and influence in the hands of women. These are conversations for those ready to rise. This is the Allured Life podcast. Let's go all in. Hello, 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 and welcome to the Allured Life podcast. I've had such a good week. I don't know if it was the weather was good. The things that I was doing in the business felt good, felt aligned, felt easy. Me and Ryan were just having a fun week. I don't know. I've been embodying the Becoming the One masterclass, maybe a little bit. That might honestly be a little bit. And a little bit of a shameless plug, but let's just kind of dive in of what's happening in the business and a couple of things that you may be wanting to plug into. But Becoming the One Masterclass is officially done. I'm officially not sick. I'm officially not nasally, which if you listen to the last module, it's like, it's a good module led by Squidward. But this is happening, Becoming the One Masterclass. It is one of those things that I debated putting somewhat of a price on it because I know myself of just like, I remember, so yesterday, actually, I just bought and purchased a masterclass from, her name's Amy Elizabeth. She does human design work and kind of meshes, it's really cool. If you're not familiar with human design, it's not woo-woo, it's not crazy, it's not culty. Ryan thinks it was a cult when he first heard about it. Amy Elizabeth from HD by Design, I think, Align by Design is her name. Does a really sexy, cool job at showcasing it. But I just purchased a masterclass of hers. It was like an hour and a half long masterclass, and it was $111. But I remember when she came out with the masterclass, it was $33. And I remember being like, no, I won't, but that's not worth my money. That's not it. That's like such a low ticket thing. And then it went up to 55 for a little bit, 77. I remember being like, oh, I kind of want it at 77. But I was like, oh, you're such an idiot, Katie. Why did you not purchase it when it's at 33? So I'm like, nope, okay, not a thing. And I just kept thinking about this masterclass and thinking about this masterclass. And then I finally purchased it for $111, which is like like that's an idiot move. If you looked at, you could have got it at $33. But I did, and it was so good of a masterclass. I'm so glad I invested that money and more so that I'm investing that time. I'm like, holy crap, this was like worth every single penny. And the fact that I could have had it at $33, but I didn't allow myself to get it because I was like, oh, it's not worth it. That's where I'm like, maybe I should be putting a price on the Becoming the One masterclass that like shows that it's worth something, because it is worth something. This is like my intention for creating the Becoming the One masterclass was really to have an experience with me in terms of my coaching, in terms of my philosophy, in terms of the things that I've learned and developed and want to be bringing to my people in an easy to consume way, where the only price of admission was your time, which I know is a big ask, to be honest, because it's a 5 days, about a 5 hour long commitment, plus like embodying the work, plus rewatching it if you really take it seriously. But it's like it's like a Bible. It could be a Bible. This could be, if you do, like, I'm not even joking right now. If you took every module, which is, there's like 4 main modules, 1 bonus, but the 4 main ones, and just focused on them 1 a month, it could change so much in your life. Like I believe that. I know that. I know it to be true because it's changed my life significantly. So I'm having such a dang good week. And I know it's changed other women's lives that have dived into this type of work. So if that's something right now you can plug into. It's available on the podcast right now. It's a little bit out of order on the podcast. So it goes, this can help you out. It goes where episode 57 is an intro to the masterclass, kind of my thoughts about the masterclass. And then it goes episode 56 is module 1. And then they're listed off as like masterclass day 2, masterclass bonus day, masterclass day 3, and masterclass day 4. If you want to know them, if you want to have them in video format, there's a link. I'll have a link on this podcast for you to just register, and then you'll get an email with the YouTube links. With the one caveat of day 2 sucks in the video quality, really great in the sound quality. So highly would recommend. I'm going to be keeping that one up on the podcast because that one, even if you just listen to that episode and actually embody and take this work seriously and like put this in for the next 3 months or so, I am going to bet your life this year is going to be completely like, whoa. Like that's how much money I would put on this, which maybe I should be putting the price on. So if it's free right now, go get it. Um, okay, so what else? Oh, Allure is coming soon as well. So Allure is launching March 25th. This is the second, my sister was just calling on my, this is the second iteration of the Allure program. Oh, Jojo? Yeah, I thought I exited out, but you're on the podcast right now. You're good. No, you're good. Okay, I'll call you back after. No, my face isn't red. Or my chest is getting red. Okay, I wonder if you heard that on the podcast. That'd be hilarious if it was. Okay, so March 25th is we're starting the next round of Allure. Allure is the, if you like becoming the one masterclass, Allure is like the big sister of becoming the one masterclass. Allure is like how I'm so able to embody my magnetism, my way of being. That really just truly is it. It's who you are being as you're doing the things that you want to be doing in this life. It's you holding these levels of standards, you understanding when you have a defense mechanism, when you're more reactionary, when you're responding to life events from a out of powered version of yourself, when you're kind of in this woe is me or the fault, the guilt, the shame, this very childlike version of us that just hasn't grown up, hasn't known any better. The version of us that is still holding on to some past harm, some past hurt. And she's just trying to protect ourselves. We are just walking, we're just walking around so much. And I see it so clearly after doing this Allured work. How many of us are just walking around as like little like girls that were hurt and they just don't know any better, but they put on this protective measure, these defense mechanisms where it makes them look like they're tough, looks like they're holding their own ground, but on the inside it's not there, or it feels a little bit fake, or it feels just not right just yet. And then there's it that can cause turmoil in our relationships where you look at other people and you don't see them for as magnificent and beautiful and like awe-inspiring, and at the same time too with compassion if they are walking with certain heart, certain harm. It's your relationships get better through this. There's compassion, there's less social comparison, there's sisterhood, there's healing work in relationships, there's so much that happens in this program. So much of my life has been transformed. So many of my relationships, I don't know if I'll keep this on the podcast of my sister interrupting the call and if you could hear her on the Apple Watch. My relationship with my sister has gotten exponentially better from doing this type of work. My relationship with my mom is night and day doing this work. And there's still stuff that my mom will do that I'm like, oh, that's so annoying. Oh, you're like pushing my buttons. Because that's honestly where we fall into our past versions of ourselves. When we're trying to become better, when we're trying to be the best version of ourselves, or hone into this woman that we are, it is our family that takes us right back real quick to being like that little annoying brat. And you're just like, why am I acting like this? But then you're like, but I also feel justified in acting like this. Your greater version of yourself is like, no, 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 no. Nice try. So this program, I really love. It's a challenging program for me to put out there, because I wanted it to be big. I wanted it, like, I'm stretching myself holding this program, honestly. Because I have such a heart of where, or a desire, or a want of where this program can go, of the impact I know it can make. Then I might be putting some pressure on myself to do it right. But it's just, I want to do it right. So this is the next iteration where I took the planning from what it was last iteration, and am involving this. So it's going to be changing a little bit. The format is going to be different, where instead of, before it was a 3-month container, this one's going to be a shortened container where it's 3 modules per week, which is a lot, but it's good a lot. It's like instead of dipping our toes in, we're jumping in the cold water. That feels really good, and we're going to feel refreshed from it. And there's going to be a couple of 2 ways of doing this. Is the first one will just be the program. So just doing the video modules, and learning from there, or I'm going to have a VIP option. I'm not quite sure what the VIP option is going to look like just yet. But know that it's coming. If you want a little bit more high touch, if you want a little bit more one-on-one, or maybe even a small group support, the VIP option would be the one for you. And I'm also debating creating a longer container for the VIP as well too. And maybe making it either a 3-month thing where it's like one, like, weekly calls, or a 6-month thing, but knowing that I'm also going to be giving birth in July. So it'd be like a 6-month thing with a little bit of a hiatus. So I'm figuring that one out. But yeah, those are like the 2 main things going on. The Becoming the One Masterclass, again, if you're like, I don't have any resources to jump into anything, Katie, the Becoming the One Masterclass is for free as of now. And then know that also too, if you listen to this after March is when I'm taking the masterclass down. If you listen to it afterwards, I love hosting these masterclasses. I become a better coach through it. I actually feel like I learn the material even more so. And there'll be more coming. So don't worry. Abundance, abundance, abundance. So what is this podcast going to be about? I was actually listening to an old podcast. I don't know. I look on my Facebook memories and things pop up, and one came up of like something that my mom posted. And then I was like, what has my mom been posting? I went into like a little bit of a spiral. So what has my mom been posting? And I scrolled down a little bit, and I found a post that she shared of mine, of when last in October of 2022. She doesn't post that much, so it wasn't like I was scrolling endlessly. But I found this post there's 2 posts that I made. One was an actual post about the experience of what we were going on, and one was a podcast episode. And this was the time that my dad got fired. And I wrote a really cathartic post, and did a very cathartic, but also I want to remember this moment podcast episode about some lessons that I learned through that process, through that experience. This is where I've been loving these podcast episodes, because the fact that I get to go back to a Katie version of October in 2022 and remember who she was and the lessons that she was like contemplating it's like going back into a diary. Like, I love it. If you like, I would highly recommend. This has been such a great way for me to be able to process my learned lessons, my life stories. I think I need to be a little bit better at the life stories. Um, but making social media posts, remembering your life, that has been so beautiful of especially the memory function on Facebook. And then also just being able to go back into this platform that I've created for myself of just remembering the evolution and growth of me. Like, all you got to do really, if you wanted to start this, is just like, I do this on Zoom. I take a Zoom video, I press record, and then I have to convert it and kind of figure out how to put it onto a platform that you can listen to. But you can host these videos, you can save these videos on like a Google Drive or your own hard drive and just go back to, okay, like do one a month and just kind of talk about what have I learned this month? What have I been contemplating this month? And it's been such a grounding effect, especially if you struggle with feeling like you're not enough, if you feel like you should be better or further along. It's I have these I of course I have those moments where I'm like, "Oh, I should be better. I got to be better." You forget you have I think, and this is with high performers, we have such a high opinion of where we should be, of where we want to go. There's a desire, there's a drive that sometimes we do just look at that desire. We just look at that drive. We just look at where we're going without having and remembering the gratitude of who we've been along the way or who we're becoming. We just kind of it's that void I've been talking about of just we're in the void and we feel like we're not enough versus you got to remember you're enough. And these things, I can play these podcasts and I'm like, oh, that was good. Because I'm like, dang, I'm proud of myself. That sounded good. That sounded decent. That sounded okay. I got a little bit of nugget from that. And if that's like the one thing, if I just wanted to record a podcast episode, and even if it takes me 45 minutes to get one point across, I'm like, okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. All right. Um, so I was listening to a podcast episode and I was like, oh, little Kate, like I was so proud of her for being brave, for being strong, for remembering, like for pushing herself of why she wanted, why I started this podcast of wanting to create this community or this energy, this embodiment of a woman leading herself through the good and also through the bad. I remember being so afraid of like pressing record on that podcast because I was like, who wants to listen to me? What do I know? Am I just little daddy's girl just talking and trying to like take this, oh, this is a big newsworthy thing. Am I just like leveraging that? Like I remember thinking of that. And I also remember thinking of my family we don't talk about ourselves online. So it felt like I was crossing the line. But in hindsight, I am so proud of myself for doing that and happy that I did. Because for me, going back and listening to Katie in 2022, as I'm in March of 2024, I was like, I needed that lesson today for some reason. I needed that reminder today. We have these versions of ourselves that I think are supporting ourselves in different areas of our life. I feel like we remember parts of us in certain areas that are just little reminders. Like if you're ever going through a hard day and then if just one moment just reminds you of a funny moment that you remember laughing at about or you remember like no, I actually went through something a little bit different and I got through it. I feel like that's our past supporting us. And this one's a little woo-woo, but I remember just thinking like what if then if my past can support me right now in the present, what if the dreams that are in my heart, the desires that I have, this pull to where I want my life to go, this knowing that like I can do this, I can be that. What if that's future me that already has it, somehow reminding the current me like to keep going, to keep pushing. I don't know if that sounds so faith-based or woo-woo, but there was something really cool in that thought. I was like, whoa, maybe, maybe. So I hope that was helpful. Oh, Cabby is so cute sleeping next to me. But in that podcast episode, of when my dad got fired, I remember actually talking about the sequence of success that I remember learning. And I remember not even planning to talk about that, but for some reason it just came into my mind and I just went off script. Not that even I had a script for that. I don't really use scripts for the podcast anymore. Master classes, yes. Podcasts, not so much. But it was this, when my dad's dad, so the first coach Christ, uh, and I'm the third. Just kidding. There's a lot of coaches in our family. My cousin is a coach. And he actually has the last name Christ, which I don't. So Coach Christ, the OG, my dad's dad, he passed away when I think my dad was 25. And he wrote in a Bible, trust, tolerance, teach by example, develop by learning. And from my understanding of the story, nobody knew that he wrote those words down in his, like when he was alive. Nobody knew that that was kind of something that he prioritized. He was faith-based. And again, these are stories that have been passed down from my dad. And my dad doesn't really talk too much about my grandpa, but I knew these words meant something growing up. I knew that they meant something because my dad would always carry around in his wallet and a picture of my grandpa, and under his picture were the words trust, tolerance, teach by example, develop by learning. And I remember seeing this all throughout my life because, like when you're a kid and you're just hanging out with your dad and he just like gives you his wallet to play around with. I feel like that happened a lot. There was a picture in his wallet. There was a picture on his desk. So whenever we would go into his office, there was trust, tolerance, teach by example, develop by learning. And then every now and then when I remember being in 8th grade and there was it was a confirmation retreat. So I'm Catholic, so I was getting confirmed. Something happened in 8th grade where we were at a retreat. And so my parents wrote letters to us, and I keep all my parents' letters. And my dad wrote on there, like, these are the things that I wish from you. Trust. And he wrote a paragraph, tolerance, another paragraph, teach by example, develop by learning. I think I actually still have that letter. I should pull that letter out. And so these were it was always, I just knew these, I knew these words. I knew these words. I knew they were somewhat important. They were always in the back of my head, but they never really landed for me. Even when my dad got his first head football coaching, did I even mention that, by the way? So I don't think I mentioned that. My dad was the head football coach at University of Wisconsin and was fired. So that's, if I forgot to mention that, sorry. You're like, what is this story about? He was fired, and this is what the podcast episode that I recorded was my reaction and my learned lessons from him getting fired. Sorry. So when he had his first head coaching job at the University of Pittsburgh, where I actually went to college, I'm pretty sure he had on the tunnel walking out for game day, I think, trust, tolerance, teach by example, develop by learning. So again, words that have just always been there for me. And it wasn't until that week. So up until that week, I've been in Melanie Ann Layer's Alpha Femme experience for about 8 months or so. Her Alpha Femme experience is just like every program that she's ever had. It's her live programs, the one that she is currently doing, and then a whole bunch of the vault trainings, which were these like past master classes. And so I was learning so much from her. Really was like, you know what? I'm going to take this as serious as this, like I'm getting a master's degree in studying this type of work. Cause I've seen how big and grand and like how a beautiful life that she's created from herself through the embodiment of this work. I was like, I want to do that. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to figure out how to make it mine and then express that into my own coaching. And so I was learning, I was learning, I was learning, I was learning as much as I could. But it was landing, but somewhat. And I feel like with personal development, it will always feel like you're learning and learning and learning. And it's almost like the same information has to come and come until it finally lands. And this is where in October of 2022, some key moments landed for me and what it meant for to live a life and why it was so important to live a life of trust, of tolerance, of teach by example and develop by learning. And then when I was listening to it this morning, more key nuggets have landed for me as well. And so that's what I want to be talking about in this podcast of what it means to learn, to live a life and why it's so important to live a life of trust, tolerance, teach by example, develop by learning. Because I really do believe that this actually is the sequence of success, sequence of manifestation, sequence of getting a life that you want, sequence of like hitting goals, everything that we want. I feel like can kind of, I wonder if I can just like make it so that it works into this, because I feel like this is such a big context that can hold so much. So let's start with trust. So in the podcast episode, I talked about how trust was trusting of yourself, trusting of the things that are in your heart, your desires, your dreams, your goals, your wants, where you can see this life. If you're brave enough to actually think it and even braver enough to believe that it's possible for you, the first step is actually trusting that these things that are happening, like coming into you, that they're coming there for a reason, that like they're meant for you, that this is something that is possible for you. And maybe even too of just, this is actually your, like God is saying, hey, I see the future that I've created for you. Trust the little things that are in your heart right now. That's the plan. Trust it. Or if you don't believe in God, your higher version of yourself, the version of you from the future, is putting things into your heart right now that are saying, this is where we're going. Like, just trust you're on the right path. You're on the right path. Trust in yourself. The hardest thing for us to do is to trust in ourselves, because we've actually been taught that to know that we're doing a good job, validation is needed. That's like when we were little kids, we always, oh, good job, you pooped in your pants. Like, maybe not that. You pooped in your diaper. Oh my gosh, you stood up. Good job. Good girl. Oh, you said your first word. Oh, here. Okay, you pooped in your you pooped in the toilet. I remember last Christmas, Ryan's niece was learning to potty train, and she pooped in the toilet, and she was like, Rai, come here, let me show you. And he like walked into the room, walked into the bathroom, like looked up into the ceiling. He's like, I'm not gonna look at this poop. I'm not gonna look at this poop. And he's like, good job. And then she looks up at him, sees that he wasn't looking, and was like, no, look. Because she's the oldest girl, and she's like, I know how to get the things that I want. I know how to, she knows how to lead. She's a little leader, that one. I'm excited to see where she grows. But there's the trust. I literally just went from a story about poop to trust, back to trust. But it is trusting that we can do it, and that we are the only ones that need to know that we can do it. Like, we don't need validation anymore. If you have a hard time feeling like you need validation, feeling like you need to know, either these are the kind of the two forms of, and I'm sure there's more, but the two popping up in my mind of validation is, one is actually somebody telling you that you're good, that you are doing a good job, or the validation, this is a complete validation of actually achieving the result. Needing the validation of, okay, I need concrete evidence today that what I'm going for, I'm on the right path. I need to know today, if my goal is to lose 20 pounds, I need to know today that I lost 1 pound. If my goal is to get a raise, I need to know today that I'm doing a good job. But we don't get those a lot. Those are it's few and far between. And instead of just yeah, when they come, celebrate them, be grateful for them. Love it when people give you a compliment or find validation in you doing a good work, or celebrate that you're on trajectory. You hit a milestone on the trajectory of your goal, but don't need that. We don't need to rely on that anymore. Because the first step is to trust ourselves, trust in our heart, trust that just in our own emotions. Again, the Becoming the One Masterclass, I go deeper in this, but trust that you can tell when you're on or off the right path for you. You can tell when you are feeling good, when you're in alignment with the big, audacious goals that you have. And then you can also tell when you're completely off of it. And these are just with our emotions. When we feel good, when we feel fulfilled, when we feel high energy, when we feel not even high energy, when we just feel fulfilled or grateful, we're on track. And then when we feel out of place, when we feel like something's off, when we feel anxiousness, when we feel like we're not enough, when we feel disappointment, those aren't this is where you have to learn a little bit of emotional intelligence. It's not that you're off track, but there's a little bit of a hiccup, or there's a moment either you have to either you're on the wrong path and you're ignoring these emotions, just trying to shun them away and trying to brute strength your way to where you want to go, where inevitably maybe you might get a little bit further, but inevitably you're gonna not get there. Or you're feeling these emotions, and this is the time to learn. Your body is telling you hey, yo, listen up. There's a learned lesson that you need for us to be on this path. It's your body is telling you. I truly do believe every emotion that we experience has a positive intention, either to tell us we are on the wrong path or to tell us, hey, I got a little golden nugget for you that's going to help you keep going. We got to learn how to trust ourselves without without needing outside validation. Outside validation is just the sprinkles on top of a sundae. Your trust in yourself, you actually knowing how to validate yourself, that's the ice cream. And I can just have ice cream all day. I don't need the sprinkles. So that's the first thing, is this trust. The second part, tolerance. What does tolerance mean? It's at first I was like, oh, is tolerance just gritting your teeth through things, through the hard, through the bad, tolerating. I actually should look up what tolerating means. So tolerance means to allow the existence, occurrence, or practice of something that one does not necessarily like or agree with without interference. So when I was listening to the podcast, I was like, ding, 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 something dung on me. So we experience these emotions of fear of failure. We experience these emotions of disappointment, of feeling not enough. These emotions aren't going away. Yet sometimes when we're walking on this trajectory of where we want to be going in our life, whether it's reaching more for the raise, reaching more for wanting a better relationship, or honestly just striving to do the things that you feel like you should be doing every single day. Sometimes those are hard enough. Tolerance is just knowing these things come into play, and it's just allow them to work through you. Allow them to be there. Don't fight them, but just allow them to come through without interfering in your walk, without making you stop, without making you take a step back, without making you question yourself, which we do so much. if there's a little inkling of doubt, if there's a little inkling of, I don't want to be disappointed if I go for this, and maybe like there's a fear of disappointment, we let ourselves play smaller because of that. Lead with trust in yourself, then tolerate the emotions that come for you. Hold, another way that I say it is just hold these emotions until they move through you. Tolerate them. Like, again, this isn't gritting your teeth through them. This isn't like holding on to them and allowing the pain to like be on you. But let me read the definition again. It's allow the existence, the occurrence, or practice of something that one does not necessarily like or agree with without interference, without allowing this to mess up your game, to make you fumble, to like throw you off. This is something that this is it. This is something that will take a little bit for you if you're like me to understand this practice. But the more that you practice this, the more that you practice this, the tolerance of negative emotion, the tolerance, the learning the difference between when is there a moment where I just need to allow this emotion to pass through me. Like I'm just kind of feeling woe is me. I need to feel this emotion, let it pass through me, let me feel it, and then let me go. Or is this something that I do need to learn from? Is this giving me a golden gift, a golden nugget? Like there's some learning there right there of your own emotional intelligence. But once you start to learn this, the tolerating aspect becomes really quite profound and quite simple as well too. So tolerance or trust, tolerance, teach by example. Another ding ding and ding ding ding, boom 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 went through me when I listened to this. I say, way-ho, way-ho. Teach by example. I always thought teach by example was just you being an example for other people, us, because leadership has always been kind of a high value in our family and kind of a standard of, like, that's just who we are. Chris are leaders, I would say. So I was always, okay, teach by example, teach by example. But then I thought this morning, what if teach by example wasn't for others, for the benefit of others? What if it was more so for the benefit of us? When we are starting something new, whether that's wanting to lose weight, whether that's creating an exercise routine or a health journey, whether that is becoming a new mom and figuring that out and having this ambition of the type of mom that you want to be, whether that's being more compassionate towards your kids or with your family, like the things that you are striving to work towards, your goals, your ambitions. What if the way that you did that wasn't by, what if it was you're teaching yourself by the examples that you make every single day? You're teaching yourself, that's validation, that's self-validation, is you're teaching yourself every single day that you can do it, that the things that you say are important to you, the things that you're striving for, you're going to become an example of it. You're going to own it all. You're going to be it all, embrace it all. Like, what if that was the type of change that we're making that's going to make a difference? And knowing too that, like, just as well as the it's truth that teaching by example is influential to other people, knowing that that is true, and also, what if it's even truer that it's teaching by example, telling yourself that you can do it? That's how you get confidence in yourself. That's how you get trust in yourself. Is every single day you're like, what's the example that I'm going to teach myself through today? That I'm going to teach myself that I am this version, that the trust that's coming through me, that like the version of me that I want, she's not here yet. I'm figuring out how to trust that. What if I teach myself that she's coming through my example of how I lead myself every single day? This is radical self-responsibility right here. But this got me excited thinking of like, okay, it's not a performative thing. It's not a me and because this is something that women struggle with quite often, is doing for others at the expense of themselves so much. So what if instead of doing for others, the teach by example aspect, where we feel like we're stretching ourselves so thin to be an example for other people, but that's feeling us drained, that feeling of drainage, that's not good for us to feel. So what if instead it's, I'm going to teach by example for myself first. I'm going to have so much confidence, so much knowing in myself that I'm the one. I'm going to embrace it all. I'm going to do it all and teach myself, teach by example. And then that's how I'm going to strengthen myself. And then through that, not only am I teaching myself the example that I am validifying me and my own capabilities, but through that, can I trust that it's going to make an impact and an influence on the people in my life as well? This is where the phrase for me, for you, for us really comes into play. For me first, though, always for me first, but this is something that we tend to forget about because we're like, I want the validation from other people, so I need to do for them so that they can tell me that I'm doing a good job. But can we do for us first so that we know we're doing a good job? And then when they say we're doing a good job because of how well we're treating ourselves, and that gives us the energy to then overflow to them, that's just the sprinkle on top. Maybe let's put some Oreos on top. I really like Oreos. Of the ice cream, the Culver's custard. And you're like, yes, yes, I am doing a good job. Thank you for telling me. But I also knew like a scoop of ice cream is just what I needed. Put some Oreo bits. Woo, love it. So that was kind of my new perspective of teach by example. And then the last one, develop by learning. So this, when I listened to the podcast episode, this one was like oh yeah, like always just keep learning, kind of. I do inherently believe like continuing education, continuing into this personal development work, the embodiment work. I feel like we can always, there's no cap of where we can go. I believe that 100%. So I'm always going to be doing this work. And that's actually why I've done, like I was in AFE for a year and I'm still going back to lessons or master classes that I have access to that I've listened to 3 or 4 times already. And I'm still sitting there taking notes where my knuckles are, like where they're on the page and it looks blue from the ink that are popping up, because I'm taking so much more notes because so much more is landing for me as well, or so many different avenues of it. So that's where I was like, okay, like sequence of success is continuing to just keep evolving, keep evolving. But then I was thinking of too, of what if it wasn't we want to evolve, we just want to learn, develop by learning. But if it was kind of taking this whole sequence into consideration of the trust of where you're going, that she is here, she is your right to, like, she's in you already, you've got that. The moment that it hits your heart of I could do this, it's like no doubt. What if the end part of it was we develop her, we almost form her? Let's like say like form her out of clay. Let's go back to like some Bible references. Forming her out of clay. We develop her by learning more about ourselves. It's not about the doing. Here was the key, the thought process, the whoa, the things that you want, whether it's to lose the weight, whether it's to get the raise, the relationship, to earn a certain amount of money, to have a certain relationship with your family, the things that you want, those little inklings that came into your heart, to have that, it isn't all about the doing, but instead it's in the developing of you into that version of you through your learned lessons. Through it is, for instance, let's say you want to lose weight. In my opinion, it is more important for you to take the time to look at your behaviors and say, okay, why was it that I drank the water, but what got in the way of me working out on Tuesday? I think it's more important to know that piece of information than the actual working out aspect, or the saying, okay, I didn't work out on Tuesday. Okay, I'll work out stronger. I'll do it. I'll do it again on Thursday. The doing aspect. You're going to develop this version of you that has lost the weight more successfully, or you're going to get her when you actually learn like the mindset or the differences of where you are now and who she is. And who she is, she knows why she didn't work out on Tuesday. And she knows what needs to change in her behavior for her to be consistent in that workout. Does that make sense? Does that land for you? Instead of just the doing aspect, she knows how to get herself to do something. And then when we know that piece of information about ourselves, when we know how to do something, like when we know how to get ourselves to do something, when we're learning our behavior, when we know that learned aspect, it is inevitable that we do the things that we want to do because we know how to do it. But we prioritize and we put forth that the doing is more important, that the actual workout is more important. But I'm arguing learning why you didn't show up, or learning how to show up better, learning how to get yourself to do things, learning why you do stuff, learning about yourself deeply, that's more important than the actual doing of itself. Because when you actually learn, if you're just going and doing, it's just the badass energy. It's just the doing energy. It's just the going energy. And it's either you do it or you don't. But when you actually learn, you really know yourself, there's like no cap. It's inevitable that you do the things that you want to be doing. When you know what gets in the way of you not working out on a Tuesday, when you know that specific reason of, okay, this got in the way, I was low energy, I didn't sleep well, then you know the sequence for success. And you develop by learning. This is why I'm harping so much on monthly contemplations, monthly audits, monthly looking back and looking at how did your month go on a minimum a month. This would be great if you get it into a practice of a month and a week and a day. But this is where it's like the learning aspect of your own self, not just adding more stuff, not reading more personal developments, not adding in another like exercise program or feeling like you need to know more information. It's develop yourself by learning about yourself, and that's molding yourself into this version of you. Oh, I'm getting like sweaty talking about this. I'm getting excited. That means I'm landing on something. I sweat when I do these podcasts, and I'm gonna reframe it of when I'm sweating, that means I am like, it's been a good podcast episode. So those are kind of the 2024 version of my understanding of trust, tolerance, teach by example, develop by learning. And then when I was getting ready, I was like, what if God had my grandpa write these notes on the Bible for it to mean something in a granddaughter that he's never met? What if God meant that to be a big thing? Wanted it to matter? Knew that there was someday a correlation between my grandpa, his son, and his daughter, and the work that was happening through that. I was like, you know what? That would be a pretty cool thing to make happen. So I don't know. That's just something that, like, what if that's a self-fulfilled prophecy? like something that I thought would be really cool, and I'm going to fulfill it. This is where these words, they mean something. They made a difference. They hung around in my mind for so many years, and then they kind of landed when I was 28 in a moment that was kind of a big moment for my family, my intermediate family, that could have knocked us down, but it didn't, because of this trust, tolerance, teach by example, develop by learning, and among other things too. If you want to listen to the podcast episode, I'll link it below as well too, because there was a really good learned lesson as well, and I listened to it. I was like, damn, Katie, I need to hear that again. Of just how your why can really strengthen you and hold you through the hard times. And the bigger your why, the less ego attached to your why, the more good that it's going to be doing for me, for you, for us. And the more that it's going to hold you and make you steady and make you a player that plays to win, no matter what. So guys, that's all I have for you in this podcast episode. If you liked this podcast, I would ask that you share it with some friends. Either share it on social media or just copy the link and share it with whoever you feel like this will be impactful for, influential for, or leave a comment on podcasts. I think it's Apple Podcasts. I don't know. But leave a comment about how the podcast has helped you. Otherwise, always reach out if you have any questions. You can find me on Instagram. It's katie.chris.youngdoll, or on Facebook as well too. There's always ample ways for you to find. Let's connect. Let's be friends. Let's go all in together. All right. I hope some moment this week takes your breath away. Mwah.
Hey there. Thank you so much for listening. My goal is to help as many women listening, and if this episode supported you in any way, the very best way to show your appreciation is by simply screenshotting this episode and sharing on your social media or with your friends. Or even better, drop a review on whatever platform you are listening on. Don't forget, if you are looking for any additional support, you can always reach me on Instagram at Katie Christ. See you back here next week.